Hello guys, I'm Tom, and today we're going to explore what the Sandworms of Dune really are. Among the most colossal, iconic, and awe-inspiring creatures that science fiction has given us, both in literature and on the big screen. The legendary Shai-Hulud, better known as the Sandworms of Arrakis, shine with unmatched brilliance. These majestic beasts are not only impressive due to their monumental size, but have also become one of the fundamental pillars of the Dune universe, a saga that has left a mark on entire generations thanks to its philosophical complexity, intricate world-building, and deep vision of the future and human nature. But the importance of the Sandworms goes far beyond their sheer scale or menacing presence. These creatures are, in essence, the living source of the coveted spice Melange, the most valuable and fiercely contested resource in the entire cosmos. Melange not only prolongs human life, but it also expands consciousness, grants prescient abilities, and is the key to interstellar navigation, allowing the guild navigators to cross the vast voids of space without getting lost. In this way, the Shai-Hulud becomes something like the backbone of the economy, politics, and very survival of multiple galactic civilizations. Native to the planet Arrakis, a hostile, desert world where survival is a constant battle, the Shai-Hulud are not just massive animals gliding beneath endless dunes. For the Fremen, the planet's native and most resilient inhabitants, these worms are sacred beings. They are not merely seen as monsters, but as living manifestations of the divine, guardians of natural balance, and profound symbols of resistance, power, and ancient wisdom. In their beliefs, rituals, and chants, the Shai-Hulud represent the very essence of the desert, the primordial force that sustains life in such a brutal world. That's why, in this video, we'll dive deep into an exploration to uncover what Shai-Hulud truly are. We'll analyze their complex biology, surprising behavior, symbiotic relationship with the Fremen, life cycle, and the irreplaceable role they play in the fragile ecosystem of Arrakis. We'll also reveal their most impressive abilities and uncover some of their lesser-known weaknesses, which rarely come to light. Visually, these titans might resemble gigantic earthworms or annelids, but any comparison with terrestrial creatures falls short when faced with their enormous scale and unique design. They move beneath the sand with lethal precision, detecting even the slightest vibration on the surface. When they emerge, they do so with relentless fury and a brutal strength that rivals the most fearsome predators in fiction. Very few have had the fortune or misfortune of surviving a direct encounter with a sandworm, as their power is both absolute and merciless. Their aggression is neither arbitrary nor capricious. It's closely tied to their defense instincts and acute environmental awareness. Any vibration, sound, or disturbance they perceive as a threat is met with a devastating charge. This hypersensitivity makes them the most feared and respected beings on Arrakis, and a true challenge for anyone who dares to try and dominate the planet. But it was precisely this respect that allowed the Fremen to achieve what once seemed impossible: to study these colossal creatures, understand their behavioral patterns, and eventually establish a symbiotic relationship with them. Through deep ecological knowledge and remarkable skill, the Fremen learned to ride the backs of sandworms, manipulate their responses, and see them not as enemies, but as powerful spiritual allies in their fight for survival in one of the most hostile environments in the universe. For them, riding a Shai-Hulud is not an act of domination, but a ritual of communion and respect. Beyond their physical power, the Shai-Hulud possess an almost mystical presence that surrounds them with an aura of mystery and reverence. It is said that when these giants feel threatened, they emit a roar so deep and earth-shaking that it seems to make the very desert tremble. Some legends even claim that this roar carries the distinctive aroma of melange, as if the worm and the spice were one single living conscious entity. As for their size, fictional scientific records, such as those from the planetary ecologist Lee Kynes, document specimens reaching lengths of up to 450 meters. However, in Fremen folklore, there are even more astonishing accounts of titanic worms dwelling in the uncharted southern polar regions of Arrakis, some said to reach 700 or even 1,000 meters in length. While these stories remain unconfirmed, they feed the mythical and legendary aura that surrounds these creatures. More concretely, it's known that some average specimens can easily reach over 100 meters in length, making them the largest known beings in the fictional universe of Dune. To put that number into perspective, a blue whale, the largest animal on our planet Earth, would barely reach the ankle of one of these worms. Their bodies are as fascinating as they are imposing. The skin of the Shai-Hulud varies in color, ranging from deep orange to dark green, and in the oldest specimens, it can even turn into jet black. This skin is made up of overlapping plates that form a natural armor, protecting them from the abrasive contact of the sand and from numerous external attacks, rendering them nearly invulnerable. However, the ingenuity of the Fremen allowed them to discover a weakness in that seemingly impenetrable armor. By forcing open one of the worm's plates, they could expose a sensitive area on its body where sand would infiltrate and cause irritation. This would make the worm twist violently in an attempt to protect the wound. This behavior was crucial for the Fremen to learn how to ride these giants safely, using that reaction to travel across the desert without being crushed or devoured. The Fremen, those relentless and resilient inhabitants of the arid and unforgiving planet Arrakis, accomplished a feat that many considered impossible or even absurd. They turned the gigantic and fearsome sandworms into true living vehicles, actual means of transportation across the vast expanses of the desert. This achievement was not the result of brute force or luck. It was born from a deep and meticulous understanding of the behavior, rhythms, and peculiarities of these titanic beasts that dominate the landscape of Arrakis. The Fremen knew exactly when and how to approach these creatures, recognizing signs in the terrain and listening to the vibrations in the sand with an almost superhuman level of precision. Once in front of the Colossus, using skills passed down through generations, they would carefully pry open one of the worm's thick, hardened scales, creating a foothold. At that moment, they would grip tightly and fearlessly, just as the creature's massive body began to rotate, a reaction meant to protect the exposed vulnerable area beneath the open scale. Thanks to this movement, the worm would avoid diving back into the deep sands, allowing the Fremen to remain on its back and travel for kilometers across the endless desert. To control and direct the movement of these massive creatures, the Fremen developed specific tools, specially designed hooks placed near the worm's head. These hooks gave them a certain degree of control over direction and speed, helping them navigate the dangerous dunes and avoid natural threats or getting lost in the sea of sand. But beyond the practical function, riding a sandworm held deep spiritual significance. It was a sacred ritual, an act that fused the material with the mystical, where respect and communion with the extreme nature of the planet manifested in every journey. When a worm showed clear signs of exhaustion or stress, the Fremen would allow it to close its scales, freeing it to return to the sandy depths, while they prepared to seek out the next giant that would carry them to their destination. This interaction was governed by a code of respect and balance, avoiding excessive exploitation or destruction of these creatures, which they considered sacred guardians. The interior of a sandworm's body is a scorching world, almost a living furnace, where the extreme heat plays a vital role in maintaining the delicate balance of Arrakis ecosystem. This intense heat helps generate and maintain oxygen on a planet almost devoid of vegetation, making life possible under such extreme conditions. Though often overlooked, This biological detail is fundamental to understanding the intrinsic relationship between the worms and their environment. The jaws of Shai-Hulud open in 3 segments, forming a voracious and formidable beak capable of devouring heavy machinery and even spacecraft that dare to challenge it. Its breath carries a spiced, powerful aroma, familiar to every inhabitant of Arrakis, inevitably reminiscent of Melange, the mystical and coveted substance. This scent serves as an unmistakable signal to the locals, warning them of the imminent appearance of a worm rising in fury from the depths. The arrival of one of these colossi on the surface triggers impressive electrical phenomena. Bursts of static energy spark through the air and explode from the ground, creating an almost supernatural natural spectacle that alerts everyone to the creature's presence. However, despite their terrifying appearance and strength, these worms are not predators in the traditional sense. Their diet consists exclusively of minerals and inorganic elements, and they avoid contact with humans whenever possible, since the human body contains water, a toxic element to them. Water is, in fact, their Achilles heel. Even the smallest amount can trigger a fatal biological failure, causing a rapid and painful death for the worm. Although it's been suggested that nuclear weapons could destroy them, their resistance to conventional methods renders them practically invulnerable. For this reason, and due to the deep reverence the Fremen hold for them, they rarely resort to destroying Shai-Hulud, fully aware that without them, Melange, and thus life on Arrakis, simply wouldn't exist. Melange is, without a doubt, the most precious treasure in the known universe. This spice has near-miraculous properties. It acts as a medicine, extends life, enhances both mind and body, and is essential for interstellar navigation. Its effects range from expanded time perception to prophetic visions and higher states of consciousness, making it the foundation of economies, religions, and political power. To the Fremen, the worms are far more than just giant animals. They are living gods, and under the name Shai-Hulud, they are worshipped as the creator and the ancestors of the desert. These symbols are deeply embedded in the culture, spirituality, and way of life of this community, who pay them constant tribute and reverence. For centuries, Arrakis was the only place in the galaxy where melange could be harvested, and its extraction posed an extreme and constant risk. Spice deposits were hidden beneath the dunes, and those tasked with collecting it had to work with extreme speed and caution, as the worms could easily detect the vibrations from machinery and would attack without mercy. Despite the ever-present danger, coexistence with these colossal creatures was accepted as a necessary risk. Melange would not exist without them, and without Melange, there would be no future for galactic civilization. The life cycle of these worms is as fascinating and complex as the planet they inhabit. It begins with a microscopic form known as sand plankton, which later evolves into sand trout, gelatinous creatures that seal underground water sources, a vital process to prevent adult worms from dying due to contact with water. These sand trout produce a special liquid known as water of life, or pre-spice, which rises to the surface and transforms into melange. Over time, the sand trout give way to juvenile worms about 9 meters long. If they survive the harsh trials of the desert, they grow to colossal sizes and fulfill their fundamental role in the ecosystem of Arrakis. Frank Herbert, in creating these beings, was inspired by mythical dragons guarding legendary treasures. Thus, the sandworms are fierce guardians of melange, representing not only an imposing threat, but an intrinsic and indispensable part of humanity's destiny in his universe. The Fremen do not flee from or fear these giants. They confront them, respect them, and integrate them into the very heart of their identity and culture.